In the heart of South Africa, amidst the sweeping landscapes, a legend was born. A man who would become an extraordinary beacon of hope in a world plagued by injustices. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, a symbol of freedom, resilience, and unyielding commitment to equality. Mandela's life remains an inspiring testament to the power of the human spirit. Born on July 18 in the rural hamlet of Mvezo, situated in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, he found himself in a society deeply scarred by racial segregation and systemic oppression. His birthplace, though humble and modest, was marked by the stark contrast between the serene beauty of its landscapes and the haunting specter of apartheid. This system of racial segregation, raw and brutal, was what young Mandela was born into. Mandela's early years were steeped in the rich traditions and rituals of his tribe, the Thembu, part of the larger Xhosa nation. His father was a local chief, and through him, Mandela learned the importance of serving one's community. Mandela's father died when he was 9, leaving him in the care of Jongintaba Dalindyebo, the acting regent of the Thembu tribe. It was during these formative years that he became acutely aware of the gross inequalities around him. From a young age, Mandela began to understand that his destiny was intrinsically tied to the struggle for freedom in his homeland. His awakening to the harsh realities around him led him not to despair, but to resistance. The burgeoning seeds of rebellion began to take root in his heart, a fervor for justice that would guide him throughout his life. His humble beginnings in Mvezo, where the rolling hills met the Mbashe River, served as a poignant backdrop to a life marked by struggle and triumph. This is the story of Nelson Mandela, a man whose life epitomized courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to justice. From a young age, he witnessed the injustices faced by his people under the system of apartheid. As he came of age, Mandela embarked on a journey that would define the course of history. Born and raised in the rural village of Mvezo, he was expected to follow the path laid out for him by tradition. Yet Nelson Mandela was not one to let predestined roads dictate his journey. From a young age, he felt a pull towards justice, a force that would soon put him at the heart of one of the most significant battles for equality in human history. Mandela's first foray into political activism came in his 20s. He had moved to the city of Johannesburg, where he saw firsthand the harsh realities of racial segregation. The stark contrast between the lives of the privileged and the downtrodden stirred a sense of injustice within him. This, coupled with his rising consciousness of the apartheid regime, led to a defining moment in his life, his involvement in the anti-apartheid movement. As a leader, Mandela was fearless and unwavering. He led protests, spearheaded campaigns, and used his voice to advocate for equality and justice. His charisma and passion were infectious, inspiring others to join the fight against the tyrannical regime. Yet his advocacy was not without consequence. Mandela's activism led to his arrest and a long, grueling period of imprisonment. Throughout his years behind bars, Mandela never lost sight of the cause he was fighting for. His spirit remained unbroken, his resolve undiminished. He saw his prison cell not as a confinement, but as a platform from which to inspire millions. Word he spoke, every letter he wrote, reverberated with an unwavering belief in the power of freedom and reconciliation. Even behind bars, he continued to inspire millions with his unwavering resolve. His belief in the power of freedom and reconciliation never wavered, proving to the world that a single individual can indeed change the course of history. For 27 years, Nelson Mandela endured the harsh conditions of Robben Island, a potent symbol of the arduous struggle against racial oppression. Crime and imprisonment were his constant companions. He was isolated, confined, and yet he was not entirely alone. He was there with his unwavering belief, his indomitable spirit, and his dream of a free and equal South Africa. His cell was small and grim, but it served as a battleground for one of the most formidable fights in human history, the fight against apartheid. The world outside may have forgotten about him, but the fire within Mandela never dimmed. Year after year, he used the blunt tools of his intellect and integrity to chip away at the seemingly insurmountable wall of discrimination, prejudice, and hate. His spirit, undaunted by the harsh realities of prison life, remained as fierce as ever. He was a captive in body, but his mind remained resolutely free, crafting a future for his people that was fair and just. Even the dreariest of times, his spirit refused to bow down to adversity. His determination was steadfast, his resolve unshaken, his spirit unbroken. Despite the daunting adversities he faced, never once did his resolve waver. His spirit, instead of growing weak, grew stronger, becoming a beacon of resistance against the formidable forces of oppression. Fast forward to 1990, a year that would etch itself permanently into the annals of world history. The entire world watched, their breath held tight, their hearts pounding with anticipation, as Nelson Mandela walked out of the prison gates, a free man after nearly 3 decades. He emerged not just as a man who had regained his freedom, but as a beacon of hope for an entire nation that was violently torn apart by racial division. His release was more than just an end to his personal ordeal. It was the dawn of a new era for South Africa, signaling the beginning of the end for apartheid, a system that had shackled the nation for far too long. His release marked the beginning of a new era for South Africa. Mandela's journey did not end with his release. Instead, it marked the dawn of a new era, a chapter in his life that was brimming with relentless effort, dedication, and a vision that knew no bounds. He was not a man who was satisfied with his personal freedom alone. Mandela, imbued with a purpose larger than life, worked tirelessly, day in, day out, with a determination that defied all odds. His goal was nothing less than the complete dismantling of the oppressive apartheid regime had stymied his homeland for years. Despite the seemingly insurmountable obstacles, Mandela remained undaunted. He envisioned a South Africa where equality, justice, and democracy were more than mere words. He saw a country where the color of one's skin did not determine the quality of one's life, and so, with an unwavering spirit and an iron will, Mandela began his Herculean task. He away, using every opportunity to advance his cause, to chip away at the bulwark of apartheid. Every effort, every hardship, every sacrifice was but a stepping stone in his grand design for a democratic South Africa. His endeavors finally bore fruit in the year 1994, a momentous year in the annals of South African history, for it was the year when Nelson Mandela, the indefatigable freedom fighter, made history by becoming South Africa's first black president. A symbol of hope and unity, Mandela's presidency marked a new beginning for his countrymen. It was through his enlightened leadership that the nation, long divided by racial tensions, began its journey towards reconciliation and healing. Mandela's presidency embodied the triumph of humanity over prejudice, setting an example for the world to follow. His leadership brought about reconciliation and healing in a divided nation, setting an example for the world to follow. Even after leaving office, Mandela continued to be a voice for the voiceless, championing causes such as education, healthcare, and human rights. He did not recede into the shadows after his presidential term, but instead become an even larger figure on the world stage. He used his influence and his platform to highlight issues that have often received little attention. Education, particularly for the marginalized and disadvantaged, was a cause close to his heart. He believed in the transformational power of knowledge and worked tirelessly to make quality education accessible to all. Healthcare was another sphere where he made significant contributions. Understanding the importance of good health as a prerequisite for a better quality of life, he championed for affordable healthcare for all, regardless of socioeconomic status. His efforts led to significant reforms in healthcare system, with a focus on rural areas and impoverished who needed it the most. Perhaps the most transcendent of all his advocacies was his unwavering commitment to human rights. Having been a victim of gross human rights violations himself, he understood the importance of protecting these rights more than anyone else. He fought relentlessly for equality, justice, and freedom for all, regardless of race, religion, or social status. Mandela's legacy is not just the work he did, but the empathy and compassion with which he did it. He showed us that it was possible to fight for what is right without losing our humanity. He left a blueprint for future generations on how to be a leader with integrity, courage, and heart. He continues to inspire millions around the world with his indomitable spirit and his unfaltering belief in the goodness of humanity. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela breathed his last, leaving behind a legacy that will forever be etched in the annals of history. His life serves as a reminder that one person can indeed change the world.